Is Electro a mid element? To be honest, there's only like a few good Electro units right now. Namely, Raiden, Cookie, Yaimiko, and you can put Fisher in there. The others are, I mean, I don't really remember. Dory? You want to use Dory, bro? It's been a hard time for Electro. I would say Electro right now is like the fifth, probably the fifth best elements behind Cryo and Geo right now. The problem with Electro is the reactions are not that good. I think the best is still Aggravate, right? Okay, look at Pyro and Electro reaction. That's the one of the main reasons I have a hard time using Klee right now, my favorite character. No one likes knockbacks. And knockbacks is a very rarely good reaction in this kind of game because you rather have everyone be in one spot, right? That's why Swirl is so good. I mean, I wouldn't say Electro's that bad. It's being carried by Raiden, of course, but let's just see what he's like gonna say. Okay, Did I subscribe? Yeah, I subscribe. Juice.
Electro.
Oh, what the
I'm sure that this element is on
Okay, is it? I feel like it's a bit too loud.
everyone's minds now that the Archon of it has returned once again. Though when I look at the Electro roster and compare it to the likes of the
Oh,
Hydro...
Setos is so fun, man. When I use Setos, I mean, it's still a main DPS. One of the most fun 4-stars I've ever played.
Number 1 Pyro rosters, I start to wonder, compared to the rest of the elements in this game, is Electro a mid-element? So today...
It's literally around mid. So, yes, it is mid. Unless you are using like the new term for mid. Because nowadays people, when they say mid, right, it means very bad. When, for me, I still think mid means mid, like in the middle. Like, you know, number 3 to 5. I think it's still fine.
I thought it'd be fun to take a look at Electro's best characters, compare them to the best characters of other character rosters, and see how big of a role Electro actually plays in the modern Genshin meta. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. First, I think it's worth starting out with the rough reputation that Electro used to have, way back in the pre-Dendro era. For the longest time, Electro was considered a less than savory element. It infamously housed very weak characters, such as Kaching, and before Dendro came out, units such as Cookie, Shinobu, and Lisa both had very...
Oh yeah, Cookie was unusable before Dendro came out.
very few meta use cases. There were some good Electro characters, of course. Raiden, Shogun...
It's kind of crazy, like, right now, because, like, Dendro came out. Some of the Electro units are usable because of Dendro. If not, I don't know where Electro might be.
Back in the 2.x era was actually quite the impressive character. But if you missed out on her back then, yet want to give her a go now, she's on banners. Yeah, you're gonna need Primo Gems, but where can you go to afford cheaper Primos? Well, Loop Bar is here to save the day. She was a great character in spite of her element. It wasn't that Raiden was super good because she was Electro, or that her being Electro really contributed to her success.
Man, if Raiden was Dendro, she would be our item.
It was more so her kit being really strong and providing some super good synergies at the time. It did help a bit, of course, as Electro Charged keeps both the Hydro and Electro Aura on enemies.
This made her really good with Xingqiu.
For a short time. You can then...
But even like, this is one of the main reasons why Raiden National is annoying to play, because when you pair it like Xiangling Bennett with Raiden, those enemies keep getting knocked up into the air. It's a bit annoying.
Use an Electro character for higher Hydro uptime, which allowed Raiden to help keep Xiangling consistently vaping and rational. But outside of that...
Wait, Xiangling consistently vaping? What do you say?
It was mostly Raiden's kit itself that pushed her up so high in the meta. She had bundles of value with her energy restoration, plus what was at the time rather cutting-edge damage. Her ease of use was excellent, and she's still super easy to pilot to this day. Also, Raiden's constellations were held to an extremely high regard, and for good reason too, because back then a C2 to 3 Raiden was as strong as your average C6.
Man, C2, ain't nobody gonna get C2. I feel like only Whale's gonna get C2. I remember my friend got C2 and then after that he didn't use it anymore.
DPS of the time. Considering how the power spike was only down to C2, the constellation seemed downright broken.
Wait, what is C2? Ignore 60. Man, Raiden doesn't need that. I mean, it is broken, but you don't really need it.
As this was before the time where every single C2 was some crazy big upgrade. It was good for a lot of units, of course, but not for every. C3 only exemplified the insanity, and Raiden did genuinely feel like the best character possible during her time. Even at C0, she was still very strong. In fact, it was pretty common to underrate her because you needed her C2, which wasn't true at all. This misconception came from the Abyss, where there was a debuff that made C0 Raiden feel like poo-poo pants. Yet,
Huh?
for every Inazuma Abyss after that, she felt great. Raiden Shogun was
Amazing.
undoubtedly the best Electro character back during Inazuma. There were a few other powerful kickers back then. For example, Fischl.
Sure.
She was always really nice in Electro Charge teams and always had really high flexibility. I'd say that the introduction of Dendro boosted her from a great character to a really great one, and she also worked pretty nicely in Raiden teams, which was a plus. There was
Interesting.
also the somewhat forgotten Queen Beidou. She was one of Fischl's best partners in crime, being a complete and utter AoE beast. Fischl helped restore her
Beidou.
burst and provide some single target, while Beidou fried all the trash mobs. It was truly
You know, people said Beidou's like out is supposed to be the same as Xinqiu's out, where if you every time you normal attack it procs electro, but I've never really got that sense from using her outs. Like it's really hard. Maybe I need to build my Beidou. I never really got her around to using like that.
a mutually beneficial
I think
synergy.
there's a reason why no one's comparing her to Xinqiu, right?
The Abyss back then was also a lot more multi-target friendly, meaning that Beidou had the opportunity to shine far more often than she does now. I feel like she barely sees any discussion nowadays, let alone use. These were the three horsemen of good Electro characters. Fischl and Beidou did actually take
Wait, where's Miko? Why do people say Fischl is better than Miko sometimes? I thought Miko had 3 turrets. I always use Miko more than Fischl.
advantage of being Electro because of how Electro Charged works, allowing for easy double swirls and such, whereas Raiden simply had a crazy strong kit. When you take a look at the Electro characters who were considered bad, such as Keqing, take a look at what she provided compared to what the others provide. Keqing provides a lot of Electro application, like a lot, and really fast too,
Ka-ching.
but because the element had little value outside of EC pre-Dendro, that didn't matter much. Yai Miko had a whole slew of issues when she came out, targeting issues, low numbers,
yeah.
not having any best in slot team. It was rough for Yai fans. The issue was that she released ahead of her time and only got her best teammate when Sumeru came out.
Yep.
I'm not sure how hot this take is, but Yai is more of a DPS than a support or sub-DPS in my opinion. Yes, you can play her as such, and she's good in Tainori spread teams when played as such.
It's funny because Yai Miko is so... You have to have Yai Miko on the field for longer times than other sub DPSs. For example, like Xinqiu, you just E Q E and then you swap out. For Yai Miko, it's like E E E Q E E E. You stay on the field for like 10 seconds. It's Yai Miko's like you can almost classify as a main DPS for the amount of time he's on field.
But her extremely long field time leads me to believe that she was always intended as more of a DPS unit. Then you look at Fischl with
Yeah.
a super ergonomic kit, being able to do solid single target numbers of repositioning and solid batterying, Beidou with her nutty AoE prowess, a neat C6 which complements Fischl, and Raiden with her ability to supercharge powerful units such as Xingqiu, Xiangling, and Bennett while doing great numbers herself. I will say that I'm a firm believer that Child International was better than Rational during Inazuma, but I will say that Raiden at least had ease of use and comfort in that team. She had her good applications. So essentially an Electro character had to do more than just apply Electro. That wasn't enough to enter the higher echelons of the meta. But could you really call Electro bad at the time when it had 3 great characters? If
I
we want to take
mean-
it literally,
Yeah, like separating the characters from the elements, right? In that case, then you can say, yeah, Electro wasn't that good. But it was Inazuma though.
yes, because every unit who only applied Electro and did nothing else was bad. Compare that to Hydro, where characters who only apply Hydro and do nothing else can still have a chance to be viable.
My girl Nilo, my girls Kokomi, let's go.
Though if you want to evaluate by characters, then Electro was at the very least fine. It's hard to say it was truly great when Cryo, Hydro, and Animo dominated it so hard. Because this was back during the Freeze era, and debatably even Pyro because of Bennett, Xiangling, and Hu Tao. But the 3 best Electros during Inazuma were the saving graces of the Electro element. Things did in fact take a turn when Sumeru came out. Electro went from being kind of whatever as its own element to being pretty solid when paired with Dendro. A whole slew of new options rolled in for the once desolate element. Aggravate, finally make Keqing's quickfire Electro application good. She could proc a whole
Yeah, finally another elemental reaction other than Electrocute was there.
ton of Fischl A4s, and since Aggravate also improved Fischl's damage, who was already a good unit, the team actually became quite respectable. Yai Miko, her main DPS playstyle finally became realized, and while she still remains as a rather slow and perhaps clunky unit to play depending on who you are, her damage more than makes up for all that.
What's this team? Baiju does not apply Dendro that fast, okay? It's not a good team, bro.
Plus, her synergy with Fischl is absolutely stellar in this team, with how she provides the Fox Lady with energy and A4s. Hyper Bloom gave the once useless Kuki Shinobu a chance to seriously shine, giving her an archetype that not only benefited her building EM, but also gave her a very definitive slot.
Man, my cookie is still S. I only have like a C0 cookie. Everyone says cookie is S tier, but my cookie is S. Are you supposed to get C6 on her before you can like use her? Because my cookie does no damage, bro. I tried to pair it up with Nahida, and it does nothing. I got her to level 90, it still does nothing. I don't know how to use her, man.
It also gave Raiden Shogun a new alternative use
Every
case.
time someone says a 4-star is broken, it's usually you have to have at least C4, from what I see.
It allowed her to remain relevant in what was at the time a new region. She did well too. Her range of electro application was—
Wait, what the heck? Dragon's Bane on Raiden? What? Does she proc Hydro or Pyro? Wait, is this a troll meme?
very large, and the earliest Hyper Bloom teams featured her heavily. Spread was also neat for characters like Fischl and Yai as another cool way of using them effectively. Point is, Sumeru really helped out the electro element, though unfortunately a warrior would inevitably have to fall in the crossfire, that being Beidou in this case. She fell into obscurity the longer the time went on as attention shifted away from Taser and began to hone in on Hyper Bloom instead, electro-charged replacement. F in the comments for Beidou, everybody.
Beidou can't use Aggravate? Is there a reason why?
Then enter Fontaine. Electro once again finds itself in a— no, not necessarily a quote-unquote bad spot, more like a forgettable or irrelevant spot. New Fontainian DPSs outdamaged Raiden so much that she just wasn't all that impressive anymore. Compare a C0—
You're talking about that girl. What's her name again? Alachino... Chlorine. Chlorine.
Raiden's performance to a
Booba.
C0 Nervalette, Arlecchino, or Linny. It's absolutely bonkers. Fischl stayed good. Good for her. In fact, you could argue that she got even better since she got pretty good with both Nervalette and Chloriander, not to mention the addition of 4-piece Golden Troop and Fontaine, which elevated her already good damage, plus the addition of Chevre's Overload comps into the
Oh yeah, the new artifact. Is she gonna say the new artifact that boosts elemental skill damage off field? That one really helped Fischl and Yaimiko. That was so broken, dog. I think it helped Fischl more than Yaimiko, but that's broken shit, man. That broken artifact for Furina as well. That one helped Electro indirectly too.
While characters like Yai and Kuki retain their use cases, I would argue that newer teams outdamaged their best teams by quite a bit. Clorox especially fixed pretty much everything wrong with Aggravate. She's a fast DPS that self-heals and isn't even truly an Aggravate DPS, because she can play super well in other teams too, such as Hyper and Overload, while still being the best Aggravate DPS if she wanted to be. Ultimately, Clorox is an Electro character, so this is a win for the Electro element, let's be real.
Yep.
Setos also came out. Whoa. Anyways, Electro didn't
Wait,
get
Setos is fun. I already said my
worse,
piece.
but it didn't get any better either. It simply stagnated. Well, that's not entirely true. I'd say it got a decent bit better with Chloriander, plus the extra official teams. You currently use Electro for either Overload teams of Chevre's, Hytham Quick Bloom, and Clorox teams in general. I think we can all agree on those being Electro's most meta use cases in the current day. Then, to compare the best Electro characters to the best characters of other elements, we'll take the 4 best characters from each element. For Electro, that will be Chloriander, Fischl, Kuki Shinobu, and Raiden Shogun. Pyro,
Okay.
the best 4 are Bennett, Changling, Arlecchino, and Linny.
Linny? I mean, I don't use Linny. Replace it with Klee.
Do I seriously have to argue as to why this lot is better than the best Electros? Hydro, that'd be Nervalette, Farina, Yolana, Mualani.
Oh, yeah, boy.
Yeah, you get the idea. Cryo, finally some fair competition. Recently, I
Hey,
Gami
bro.
and Shenhe. Yeah, I think Electro
This is the 6th worst element.
beats Cryo's best.
Second.
Animo, that'd be Xianyan,
Second worst.
Kazuha, Xiao, and Farizan. I can see the argument, but Kazuha and Xianyan being here allow Animo to steal the win. Geo, that'd be Navia, Zhongli, Noelle, and Kachina. I'd say the best Electros beat this loss, but don't underestimate Navia. Also, Shilon may
Oh, Navia is so good, man.
change things, but I can't say anything for certain yet.
Wait, Kachina's the 4th best? Geo already? What? That baby.
Dendro, that'd be Nihida, Baiju, Hytham, and Emily.
Oh, Emily. Wow, you actually got put. Oh, Emily. Emily's stocks is getting higher. Let's go, everyone. Screw you guys who didn't like Emily, bro. I loved Emily and her design when she came out. Oh. All the people who didn't pull on 4.8 suck my balls.
I'm gonna call it a tie here since I don't want to undervalue Chlorand and Fischl. So if we were to rank Electro, it would land as the 4th or 5th best based on that rough look. Obviously, there's so many more variables that could go into it, but if we look at it in a surface level way, then this is the outcome. But does this make Electro mid? After all, sure, Dendro has Nahida and Baiju, but it also has Kave, so who's really winning here? Because at the end of the day, Electro-based teams aren't all that weak, especially if you choose to give Electro the benefit of the doubt and look at how much it has improved as an element since the peak of its Dark Ages. Sure, much stronger teams exist now, but that doesn't mean that Keqing can't competently clear the Abyss anymore. Genshin's power creep, while it does very much exist now, is quite forgiving. You don't have to play the best team to clear. All you need is a working team with an...
The power creep thing is, I've been using Raiden National and my Nilo Bloom team to clear Abyss for the past 3 years, so I think I'm fine. Like, I don't think there's any power creep that I've seen. Okay, my Nilo team is like, Kokomi, Nahida, Nilo, and Al-Haitam, while my Raiden National is Raiden, Bennett, Xiangling, and Xingqiu. So you can, that's your own way to clear the Abyss, but for me, I've not noticed any power creep. Like all the new characters I played, like New Villette and like Chlorine is like the flavor of the month for me personally. I don't know if that counts as being a casual player, but for me, I've never experienced any power creep, to be honest.
Investment, then you'll be good to go. Regardless of what I say here today, even if a C0 Raiden is all that somebody has, they are still going to clear with said Raiden. Plus, I'd still say that Electro is a lot better than the current worst elements of Cryo and Geo. Chlorand is gonna have no trouble outdamaging an Ito. Seriously, bro needs a buff badly. Think about it like this, it's not that Electro is bad or that Electro characters are bad. Chloriander is an amazing unit, Fischl is a great unit, those two are definitely meta. It's more that the elements above it are just seriously overtuned. Ah yes, don't you love it when Hydro has multiple of the best characters in the entire game as part of its cast? Hydro has literally always been good throughout Genshin's history, and Hydro characters continue to be insane. Arlecchino and Linny are also S-tier characters, and Bennett's reputation...
It's true, Hydro is broken because of the characters. If you're actually gonna count like the best element in the game, it is still Pyro in my opinion. I think Pyro is the best element in the game. It's just as there's not enough characters that are applying good Pyro applications. The only reason Hydro's the best right now is because Hydro has the best characters. Hydro's carried by the characters right now. Pyro's, there's only Xiangling.
precedes him. We all know how good that kid is by this point. Same with Xiangling. Animo is also really hard to beat considering that they have 4VV on their side and Kazuha. Plus, holy smokes, when is Xianyang gonna get a rerun? Because I have to make at least 100 videos glazing how good she is.
Oh yo!
Is Electro...
I like to glaze Xianyin too.
Mid? Yes, because it is quite literally in the middle. People might hear mid and translate that to bad, which, fair enough, a lot of people...
yeah, that's how you're supposed to use mid,
use it that way, including myself. But in this case, mid does mean middling at the end of the day. And the fact that Electro is roughly in the middle, if not a little below, makes it mid. That doesn't make Electro really bad or extremely incompetent. It simply means it's an element that isn't as ludicrously overtuned as some of this game's top elements. Electro is so interesting to discuss because of the long and somewhat shaky history it has had. I do think that if we get more units that are as powerful as Clorox and Fischl, the end result of this video could change someday to shift more in Electro's favor, and I will absolutely reevaluate my position on the matter when that day comes. I think Electro units tend to be very balanced.
Oh yeah, Chef Riz was another character that buffed Electro. The problem is he's buffing the worst reaction in the game, like the knockup on... I forgot the name. Is it Electrocute? Like Pyro and Electro reaction. Anyways, it's such a bad element I don't want to remember the name. I hope they replace it. Nobody likes knockback in Genshin in this kind of meta unless it's really a benefit, which it hasn't been for the past like 5 years. I mean 4 years. How long is this game again? Play it
is all. Not super broken, but not absolutely horrendous either. Just balanced. But yeah, you can let me know your thoughts on the matter down below in the comments as to whether you agree, disagree, or if you have something different to say. Hopefully this video is able to tell you whether Electro is a mid-element or not. This has been Juice, signing out, and fun fact, Keqing's favorite food is also my favorite food.
YouTube eating balls? Yeah, I wouldn't say Electro is in a bad spot. Okay, Electro's not the thing that MiHoYo needs to focus on right now. Rather than focus on Cryo the most. Cryo's the most important buff right now. I don't know, they'll wait until SNES. They won't buff it right now because that feels bad, but they need to buff Cryo first, and then after that I think Geo's in a good spot, to be honest. Yeah, maybe after that they can buff Electro. Okay, so yeah, that's my opinion.